Alright, so today I'm going to be showing you guys how to do routine maintenance on your Jeep Grand Cherokee.
So we're going to start by changing out the air filter. There's multiple clips. You pull down on them and they disconnect. So once you've got all your clips off, I've got one that's going to give me a little trouble because it's broken. Let's see if I can't finagle it. I don't remember that being broken last time. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect these. Yours might look a little bit different because I've moved some things around. So once you got that up out of the way, you got your old air filter. You can see mine's pretty dirty. So we're going to go ahead and trash this one and replace it. Now I went with STP. That is because they have a pretty good discount at AutoZone. And if you look at it, STP oil meets all the requirements that the other oils meet, so this is good enough for me. So throw that box out of the way. This goes in with the paper side down, so you want the metal grate sticking up. It'll sit right in there. This goes back down on top of it. Put your clips back on. I'll go ahead and put that one back on even though it's broken. Hook your hoses up. And you don't really have to disconnect those hoses, but I'd rather not put stress on the fittings. Alright. So now that you got your air filter replaced, let's go ahead and move on to the oil. So I chose to go with a high mileage, fully synthetic oil. My Jeep's got over 250,000 miles on it. So let's go ahead and get this in there. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and take this oil filter off. I will be using my pipe wrench. Unfortunately, I can't find my tool. But I would definitely recommend grabbing one of those tools. You can get them pretty much anywhere. This is why I like that tool, because it's compact. It's just fits right on the end of a ratchet. I do have an oil pan down there to catch this. However, your upper control arm is going to be in the way, so expect to spill a little bit of oil. Yeah, shouldn't be a whole lot, but just kind of as quick as you can, flip it back over. As you see, it's still got a decent amount of oil inside of it. Now what you're going to want to do is make sure that these rubber gaskets are the same size, and they are. At some point I believe somebody put the wrong oil filter on this, or I do know that there is another oil filter, but it's a special order, so I don't know if somebody put that on there. But we're going to be going with what the parts catalog shows, so that is a S16XL. So let's smack that on. Now something I like to do is go ahead, pull your plastic off, throw that in the trash, take your new oil, put a little bit on your finger, not too much, just enough to wet your finger. And go ahead and kind of rub around that O-ring. My gloves absorbed a little bit of the oil, so let's get a little more. Just put a nice little coating on there. That's going to help keep that from binding and make a better seal when installing. Okay, so the drain plug's a 1/2 inch. I know most of the time these Jeeps are metric for whatever reason. In this situation, they're 1/2 inch. I like to go ahead and break them loose, and then once you break it loose, put an extension on the end of it, and try to get that off without getting it all over yourself or the pavement. It's really not an easy task. Stack some stuff. In my case, I used a styrofoam cooler just to make some spacing to bring the oil catch can a little bit higher. I also put the Jeep up on ramps. That way the back of the oil pan would be more at an angle pointing down. So while it's draining, go ahead and walk away and let it drip for a little bit while you get the rest of your stuff ready. So now that your drip's slowed down, you're going to go ahead, wipe off your plug. You're going to want to run that in all the way, hand tight. Now that you've got it hand tight, take your 1/2 inch wrench, now bring it snug and go up, do a 1/4 turn, and another little turn just to make sure it's snug. You don't want to over tighten these and tear the threads out of them. Take a chance to wipe everything up. And make sure you don't dip your rag in your oil. Oh, that's got to go to the trash. Oh. Now that that's done, go ahead and reinstall your oil filter. Make sure nothing gets in its way. Now you can take this hand tight and then get a good grip on it. Give it another turn until it just feels really snug. You definitely don't want to get any tools on this. Now that's about as tight as I think we're going to get that. Now you can go ahead and remove your fill cap. Grab your oil. Try not to spill any. Now at this point, you've got about a quart of oil in it. You can go ahead and check for leaks down below before you continue. Alright, it looks like I don't have any leaks, so I'm going to finish up putting this oil in and I'll get back to you. Alright, this motor should hold 5 quarts, but I'm going to go ahead and check it at 4 quarts just to make sure. Make sure you give it a little bit of time to run to the bottom after that 4th quart to settle in. Now it looks like we still need about a quart. A little less than a quart actually, or a little more than a quart. But like I said, there's so much baffling that probably just hasn't made its way to the pan yet. Now once this last bottle's finished draining, go ahead and put your cap back on. Now that you've let the oil drain all the way, you want to check it one last time. I don't know how hard that is for you to see. being it's new oil, but it says we're good. So let's go ahead and put that back. Clean up any mess we might have made. So normally I like to go ahead and put a little bit of oil in the oil filter just to make sure there's no voids in the system. Being the kind of filter this is, you can't really do that. They go in upside down. So what you can do is crank it a little bit, kill the key, and then crank it again. That way it doesn't start and builds a little oil pressure. So once I start this, you're not going to be able to hear me too well. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you now, what you're going to want to be doing is watching that gauge. I'm going to blip it over just enough to turn the motor, but not enough to start it. And that's to build up some oil pressure. And then I'm going to immediately come out and check for leaks underneath. If all that looks good, it's a good time to go ahead and check over your other fluids, such as your trans fluid. In most cases, that has to be checked while the motor is running. If that looks good, you can move on and check your other fluids, such as your wiper fluid and your coolant reservoir fluid, assuming your motor is not hot. If your motor is hot, do not open the reservoir. So as you can see, the oil pressure did jump up. It looks to be maintaining. So let's come around and check for leaks. Go ahead, pull it out, wipe it off. Now if you flip it over, it says we're at the max. If you look that way, it says we don't have enough oil. This motor's not completely up to operating temperature. So let's go ahead and put it back in. And check one more time. Thanks again for watching this upload, and I hope you learned something from it. And if you did, like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.